And I was thinking about that statement. And by the way, after talking about the 1.8%, I want to tell you that I'm encouraged by the fact that we had record numbers who sign up, many for small donations, but that's okay. I was thinking about that statement. By the way, after talking about the 1.8%, I want to tell you that I'm
Hopefully that will stop.
that we had record numbers who sign up, many for small donations, but that's okay. I was thinking about that statement. By the way, after talking about the 1.8%,
Okay, let's fix this thing. Let's fix this mother out. Clean this mother out. All right. I need to find. How do I share? Copy streaming link. All right. Oh my gosh, this reflection is crazy. All right. All right. Okay, I need to focus on this. Gonna be going live on the One Great Work Network relatively soon. Get everything set up. You know, I could do 2 cameras, I think. Let's do. Huh. I should have done this earlier. For my beginning time. It's craziness. Screen. So maybe we just go here. What is this? That works. Okay, so we've got that one. And then let's also do a capture. Oh. What is this? Oh my goodness. All right. Well, it's almost 5 o'clock and I've got to start. I am not ready for this. It is 5 o'clock. Okay. Let me shut this door. Francis, are you coming, buddy? Francis! Come on, inside. Come on, buddy. Come on. I've got to start, bud. We're talking business. Okay. Let's start streaming on the One Great Work Network. If I can do this. Hello, everybody. It's Patty, and I am on my new setup. I was here, I think, last week, but I didn't have my camera set up, and apparently they're not cooperating with me. I'm using 2 different cameras right now, and I'm trying to get the other camera connected. Let's see. I think I can do it. I just have to figure out how. Let's see. Oh, there I am. I'm on the One Great Work Network. Awesome. I think it's under, let's see, I'm on OBS. I want to say maybe display capture. Okay, so how do I change? There we go. That's perfect. That is perfect. I think, maybe not. Let's see. Okay, we're going to start here in just a second. We really are. We are going to start in just a second. I'm gonna do something fancy here, folks. All right. I think this is working. I'm on 2 different cameras. Look at how exciting that is. Okay, let's go back to this one. So my name is Patty. I have a website called Natural Law Health, and I thought my website would be showing up, and it's not. Maybe I have to do this. Nope, that doesn't help. Anyway, I'm trying to figure out all of the peculiarities, if I can get the word out, of OBS, because I'm on OBS. I'm not that tech savvy, believe it or not, even though I do teach online. But I'm trying to be a little bit more, how do you say, visually professional, and it seems like I'm really dropping the ball. So I am live streaming on YouTube. This is the camera that's live streaming on YouTube. And then on the One Great Work Network, I'm also on a different camera. So I've got 2. And I'm drinking kombucha right now. So I want to share a little bit of my new office with you, my new office space that I created. You can see I have, let me go to the view from the YouTube where I'm live streaming. I'll go there first because that's a pretty cool wall hanging I have behind me. You can see that that is actually, I guess they call that, like the pineal gland. It's really, more similar to the hypothalamus of the hypothalamus, thalamus, and epithalamus of a structure in the brain called the Diencephalon. And I want to share that with you, what that picture looks like. So I'll bring it over here. Let me share my screen so y'all can see it. All right, we don't need to see my email. All right, so you can see here, this is a mid-sagittal section of the brain, right? And the corpus callosum connects the 2 cerebral hemispheres. This area right below the corpus callosum, I mean, there are a few things there, but, to be pretty straightforward about it. This is called the diencephalon, and it includes the thalamus, the hypothalamus, and then the epithalamus, which the habenula and the pineal gland are a part of. The habenula is kind of up here. There's the pineal gland. And so this is a very sacred and ancient symbol. And that's what you see behind me. If we go back to my full screen, right? So that is behind me. And I purchased that because, I'm trying to make my room look kind of cool. You can also see 2 of my, you can see all 3 of my dogs here. There's Willard James. This is Biba Francis, and this is Miss Loretta Jean, my 3 children. And my 4th child, who is a cat, he's a little bit too good for us, so he's not in the room with us right now. He's got his own room. I do not sleep in this room. This is just basically my office right now. But I like it because I can really keep the dogs isolated from, there's a window here, but I can close the window and the dogs are less likely to bark. So that's really kind of cool. So anyway, I wanted to show you that view. And then my other view, I guess if I go to this other view, though, the people on the YouTube live streaming with me can't see this. I don't know. I'm kind of torn what to do. This is my other view on the One Great Work Network, which the YouTube people cannot see, unfortunately. But you can see for my One Great Work Network people, You can see right there, I have the circle of life or the seed of life symbolism that I've been talking a little bit about. So I just wanted to kind of give you all a little bit of a view of my office space. Last week, I did not have these cameras set up, and apparently I need to do a little bit more work with setting it all up in this new space. I'm going to go, I guess, to the other view so that the people that want to connect with me on YouTube, where I am live streaming today, so that they can reach out to me. So I'm going to pull up my YouTube in case I minimize that. Let me make sure that's all set up. I don't know. Where can I view? Let's see. I think maybe I have to go here to view my live stream. There I go. So I don't see anybody connected with me on the YouTube. Gosh, this is so bright. My screen is so bright. And I really should have kind of double thought the lighting because it's very reflective. But right now I am on the One Great Work Network live streaming as well. So I had a couple of things I wanted to talk about, and I actually, because I always forget things, I typed it down in my phone so I wouldn't forget of what I wanted to chat with you all about. I'm noticing on the live stream on YouTube, you can see my puppies cuddling. It's really cute. Let's go there for a second. How about that? Let's switch screens. All right, so that you all can see me on the YouTube and the One Great Work Network. So yeah, I'm going to, I guess I need to figure out how to, if I'm going to do this, how to live stream so both screens can be shared. Let me go into my list of what I wanted to chat with you all today about. So the first topic of business that I'd like to discuss is self-reliance. And I know it's kind of one of those things like, you know, can we really ever be self-reliant? We seem to be quite dependent on this system. And when it comes to health, oh, I just banged my elbow. When it comes to health, I think that's better because now my glasses aren't reflecting, so I'll just do it this way. When it comes to health, we really need to be more self-reliant. And that is because, let me minimize this. Trying to minimize things that are going to cause too much reflection. I think this is a little bit better. Yeah, self-reliance when it comes to health. You know, so many people have been indoctrinated to believe that they need the hospitals or the medical system to, I should double check to make sure I didn't screw everything up by minimizing it. I don't even know. Okay, I think we're good. But anyway, we've been indoctrinated to think that we need medicine. Like, well, there's medicine, which is there to help us heal. And then there is pharmaceuticals, and they're really not the same thing. So we're going to talk a little bit about that today. And what does self-reliance really look like when it comes to, you know, dealing with this pandemic that we're currently all a part of. Now, again, I'm drinking a kombucha. I was drinking this last week as well. I order from this place. I don't want to say who I order from. I can give them props, but you know, you put yourself out there and you know, you start getting weird things in the mail. But I get this place from a company that, you know, helps grocery stores that have an abundance of you know, produce and whatnot. And then they give me some kombucha. I order one kombucha a week and it's like my treat. It's like my Friday night treat. Since I don't drink alcohol, I drink kombucha. Kombucha used to have alcohol in it and then they fermented it longer. I don't know if they decreased the fermentation time to decrease the alcohol content. I'm not sure. But I do like these little bubbly drinks. But yeah, what does self-reliance look like when it comes to medicine? And I do want to check the YouTube every now and then to see if I have anybody here that wants to ask questions. I just advertised the fact that I was live streaming on the YouTube. So I am, I teach, but outside of teaching at a college, mostly teaching people going into the modern medical allopathic system, which I am not a fan of whatsoever. And being a part of that system in the past, I, learned a thing or two from being in that system. And what I've learned is that much like with this pandemic, the system is really based on the profit of, profits that can be earned at the expense of the ill, at the expense of the sick. And pharmaceutical companies, I think, are really, gosh, I have to watch what I say. I have to watch what I say. I'm trying to keep my YouTube channel as long as I can, so I've got to be a little bit careful here. But companies that sell chemicals to people and making people think that they have a chemical deficiency, or chemicals that are used to suppress normal physiological expressions called symptoms, which many symptoms are simply detoxification experiences, meaning that our body is trying to get rid of something that has been accumulated in our body, and it's there, it's irritating us, and we need to set it free. And by setting it free, there's going to be events like sneezing and coughing, and perhaps on the other end of the body, diarrhea, excess urination. There could be sweating, there could be some smells with that excretion. And that's all a healthy thing, is to get stuff out of the body, to remove it from the body. Because the longer it stays in the body, especially if it's an irritant, it is just going to trigger pain, inflammation. I mean, pain is part of the inflammatory response. And chronic inflammation is not a healthy scenario. A chronic inflammation is very taxing on the tissues. And tissues that are exposed to those those mediators that create the inflammatory response, when they do so chronically, it's like, putting hydrochloric acid on your tissues chronically. You're going to create tissue damage. And one thing that happens that, the end result of a long chronic exposure to an irritant that is harmful is you start seeing loss of tissue function, and you could even see, like neoplasms, which commonly called cancers, right? So what I like to do if I'm experiencing that, and this is what people sometimes ask me about, I guess my glasses reflect too much. Sometimes I just want to see a little bit. I'll keep my glasses up so there's not that reflection. Anyway, I thought I was going to sneeze there for a second. What I personally do when I'm not feeling well, or if one of my little angels that you can see in the background, if they're not feeling well, what we do is we kind of take a step back. And, I can't say that my dogs or cat, if they're not feeling well, they necessarily like that, because, they love eating. Most people, I guess, receive some pleasure from eating. But I take a break from all of that. And really, fasting or not eating food, that really does help the body eliminate more effectively. So, at the top of the water fasting, or I should say at the top of the detoxification pyramid, there is water fasting. And let me show you a little document that I think will be beneficial. I have to put my glasses on so I can see where this document is. But I want to share a little document with all y'all, if I can find it. And it is regarding how to detoxify and kind of the levels of detoxification. So let's look at that. Let me share my screen so that my YouTube friends can see this as well. Let's see, where did it go? There we go. Okay. So this is something that I share with clients. And so like I said, outside of teaching, I do health coaching. That's what I'll call it, health coaching. I am a naturopath, not licensed, and I don't want to be licensed because that's like, handcuffs that tie you to, control systems that can regulate how you can share information. And that's all I really do is share information. I mean, at heart, I think I just am an educator, and I educate people how to enhance the detoxification experience. So I'm only sharing this with you all once again, because as I mentioned, if you're just joining me, I think, we definitely need to learn self-sufficiency when it comes to detoxification. I see Stephen is here. Hi, Stephen. If you have any questions, feel free to type them out. I'm just kind of chatting a little bit about self-sufficiency. Man, when I look at the YouTube video, the video is so reflective. I don't know, I've got to change the lighting in this room. Anyway, let's look at this document, right? This document is talking about the levels of detoxification. So again, at the pinnacle of detoxification, we have water fasting. And this is something that, if it's severe and if you're relatively healthy, this would be a good thing to do. But you don't want to jump into water fasting right off the bat, especially if you have been living a poor lifestyle. What I mean by poor lifestyle, if you've been eating a standard American diet, you have been, you have a lot of aches and pains, and, but you're not like critically ill, you probably want to ease into water fasting. Now, personally, I'll share my water fasting experience. When I was in my 20s, actually when I was in medical school, I did an internship with Dr. Joel Furman, who at that time, and I don't think currently he is doing this. It would be nice if he offered these services, but there are other places you can go. But at the time, he had a water fasting home where, patients, because he was, a licensed medical doctor, where patients would come and visit, and he would monitor them while they water fasted. And I was in medical school at the time, and I asked if I could do an internship with him, and I was with him for a few months, and checking vitals and just kind of learning about the use of water fasting. And this was really during a time when I was really, I went into this route because I was feeling very frustrated with what allopathic medicine had to offer to help people heal. And I was becoming more and more saddened by the lack of true remedy in allopathy. And somebody by the name of Habanero is here asking, what is the PCR testing positive for when it means testing positive for C19? Oh, thank you for using code words, Habanero. I think they're just testing for a genetic sequence that they themselves came up with. I mean, they have this genetic sequence on some kind of file, and they say they know it, but really, there are certain little strands of nucleotides that they know detoxification vesicles, which are called exosomes, products of exocytosis, that occur when a cell is feeling some sort of irritation, which can be the number, count my fingers, and the letter, A, B, C, D, E, F, that letter, right? So various radio waves can trigger exosome release, and these exosomes carry strands of nucleotides in the form of ribonucleic acids. In our nuclei, in the nucleus of the cell, we have the double-stranded deoxyribonucleic acid, but what the exosome might be releasing is just a single strand, ribonucleic acids, not deoxy. Anyway, they know that a lot of people that release exosomes that are having a detoxification event, their exosomes might have a little bit of this genetic information, and they jotted it down and they're like, this might come in handy. We might need this to control the world in the future, and we can use this in a test. Inappropriately using a device called polymerase chain reaction, or PCR, which when I was in graduate school, I used PCR and it just amplified genetic information. So if I was studying an organism, I did a research rotation in a lab where I was looking at these little nematode worms, and we were looking at their genetics. And sometimes, you need to amplify the genetic information in these organisms to really, get good numbers and to see things more clearly. But using it as a test, it was never discussed as a test back in those days. And so, it's all shady what they're doing right now. I mean, I don't think they're using the PCR any longer because I think they got caught. The amplification cycles are way too high. So yeah, you're going to find almost anything and anyone based on that. But yeah, so it's just, genetic stuff, big ass deal. It's like it's not that big of a deal, and everybody has it. And it's like, they need numbers, they need case numbers to create fear, and fear controls people, especially people that are quite vulnerable and people that believe in this system, right? It's anyway. So let's come back to, I'll answer more questions if you'd like me to, but let's come back to this little document. So we're looking at water fasting as being the pinnacle. And when you're fasting or when you're doing any type of detoxification event, you might be releasing exosomes with genetic information as well. So it's not just things that we're exposed to that trigger exosome release, but it could also be, just us trying to expunge, trying to release the congestion. So as we move down this pyramid, these are alternate ways to detoxify. And some of them aren't as powerful, but they're still very beneficial and health promoting. And when we talk about detoxification, we have to remember what the end goal is, and that is to release the interstitial congestion. And that's kind of, if you were in a race and the finish line was that your tissue spaces are free of interstitial congestion, what you can do to get to that finish line is really up to you. And everybody can reach the finish line. Some people might get there faster. Some people might get there slower. The people that water fast, they're going to get there pretty fast. But in the water fasting experience, like I said, it can be very challenging because there's a lot of symptoms, and really your body is taken through a very, a very serious release that could be uncomfortable for many people. So I prefer using at least some fruit. So right under water fasting, the mono fruit juices or mono fruits, those are really going to be the most powerful for those that do want to take some food in. And when you're doing this, you can really benefit from the herbs as well. I don't necessarily with water fasting recommend herbs. I think to do a true water fast, it's just you, the water, and the elements like the sun. You can bathe, all of that, but even like jump in a lake or an ocean. But I don't think you should be taking herbs with the water fasting. But with the mono fruits, whether you juice them or you eat them, one fruit at a time, that is incredibly powerful. And that's how in nature many animals eat. So if you look at the frugivores that are on this planet, many of the great apes, the chimpanzees, the gorillas, when they are eating a fruit, they're just eating one fruit at a time. So they might find a fruit plant or tree, and they just sit there and pick the fruits, and just that's what they're eating. So that's how humans, being that we can learn from nature, we can benefit from that type of ingestion as well. And it's quite powerful. And then below that, we have just fruit juice in general. So you could mix a couple of fruits together and, enjoy those. And then fruit smoothies are great. Mixing a few fruits together. These are things that I give to my dogs as well. So, dogs can have fruits. I have today, one of my dogs, I gave him bananas and blueberries. I made a little smoothie for him. And I like to give my dogs their herbs as well. I prefer, using the glycerin formulas for my dogs and my cat. But if I don't have a glycerin formula, a little bit of alcohol is not, the alcohol tinctures, which are they're more powerful, I believe, than the glycerin tinctures. But, a little bit of alcohol isn't going to hurt them. It's not, they're only getting drops because they're, small. I mean, one of my dogs is about 75 pounds, but then the small one is 35, and then Willard over there, he's about 55 pounds. But yeah, I like giving them fruit smoothies so I can put some herbs in there and, help them detoxify as well. So, animals can benefit from detoxification, as can humans. And then just doing nothing but fruit, I mean, this is very powerful, incredibly powerful, because the fruit, this is, I think, how humans were meant to live. We are frugivores. And so you can mix up a bunch of fruits. Obviously, in nature, we're less likely to have a bunch of fruits at our disposal. But if you're, walking around the forest or the jungle, you're going to find at least maybe one fruit tree, and you can just sit there and have a feast of persimmons or a feast of apples or a feast of grapes, whatever you can come across. And then, if you want to slow it down a little bit, at least having fruit every morning for breakfast, which I try to follow this on most mornings. This morning I cut up two, oh gosh, why can't I'm having a brain fart right now. 2 pomegranates. I can't believe I forgot that name. I cut up 2 pomegranates, and I have this little thing that, after I cut it in half, I just kind of push it against this little green thing that I have. It's specifically for pomegranates, and it pushes all of the little seeds out. And I had a big pile of pomegranate seeds for breakfast. It was quite tasty. And then, for lunch and dinner, you can stick with, it would be best if you could stick with some raw foods, like a raw salad and maybe a dinner of raw veggies. But, you could include, for less of a detoxification experience, you could, use some slightly cooked or steamed fruits and vegetables as well. And really at the bottom, this is when you're trying to detoxify, you should avoid everything at the bottom. I mean, some people just avoid those in general. Just don't ingest animal protein. It's not nice to eat. Our friends, and fish is included in that, in my opinion. Dairy is quite congestive for many people, especially the pasteurized dairy. I mean, when they pasteurize the milk products, they heat it at such a high temperature. and it coagulates. It causes the proteins to stick together in unnatural ways. It's really hard to digest that. And yeah, so I would not recommend the dairy. Eggs again, and I know a lot of people in the, self-sufficiency and, living off the grid community, they have their own chickens that lay their own eggs. And, egg protein is just, I don't really think it's health promoting. I mean, I thought about getting chickens for my own animals, for my dogs and my cat to have some eggs. But I don't think eggs are good for humans. Cheese, and if I were to get eggs for my animals, I would get them from that source. So I knew that the little chickens laying the eggs were being well taken care of. But it's definitely not a health promoting food for humans, nor is it a detoxifying type of food. Grains are, they're again what Dr. Morse calls polys, like the protein. Long chains of something that need to be broken down. And energetically, it takes a lot for us to digest foods. You have to release enzymes, your body temperature has to be at a certain temperature, so those enzymes don't denature. And, there's a lot, there's other secretions, bodily secretions that need to be released, like hydrochloric acid or sodium bicarbonate. And so breaking foods down energetically is taking you away from detoxifying and healing. So that's why we avoid these foods when we want to detoxify. Sugars, they're just stimulants, sugars that are outside of their natural source, stimulant, very toxic. So just this bottom, just avoid them if you are sick. So we're talking about self-sufficiency, which is why I brought this chart up. Because when you're sick, and this is what so many people don't want to hear, when somebody is sick, they don't want to experience the symptoms they're feeling. The sniffles, the headache, the cough. So what do hundreds and millions of people do? They look for a suppressive drug, a suppressive chemical, which is not natural. I mean, yes, you can argue that some of them come from things that are found in nature. Like, what is it? White willow bark is the plant from which aspirin is produced. But, it's processed, it's an isolate. It's not natural. And so what would you do if you're in the woods, if you're hiking or camping and you become very ill and there's not a hospital? Or I don't know, maybe, we live in crazy ass times like we do today. And, the people that are quote unquote, the powers that should not be are, causing events that are quite frustrating for humans. And, people could break out in war, and then, you break down systems, and we don't have these to rely upon any longer. So we need to get to a point where we're not always thinking that we have a drugstore to go to buy aspirin or a hospital to go to. You really have to think about, what you can do on your own. And honestly, healing is almost much safer to avoid the big pharma / allopathic system, because a lot of times that system creates more problems than it fixes. Yes, in the short term, it can turn off your symptoms, but in the long term, it's often turning off those symptoms while creating more inflammation and exposing you to more toxic chemicals. And you get addicted to these chemicals and you're on them long term. And then, it's a system that is, I found to be, and this is 20 plus years ago, almost 30 years ago, when I was in medical school, I found it to be quite corrupt and evil. And I just knew I wanted out. And, this takes me now back to in the 1990s when I found Dr. Furman, and I worked at his water fasting clinic. So I am going to Let's see if I can do this effectively. I was going to try to transition my screen so that the people on the YouTube can see my alternate screen as well. Let's see. Let's do this. Share screen. Oops. I don't know where it is. All right, never mind. That didn't work out too well. That did not work out at all. So I'll just come back to where I was with the YouTube folks. Now I'm like completely confused as to what I'm doing. Okay, so I'm gonna kind of be doing both screens here. So the folks on the One Great Work Network are seeing me on one camera, and the people on the YouTube are seeing me on another camera. So I wish I could remedy this somehow, but I don't know how to do that. That's okay. I probably should, there's many helpful people on, wait a minute. There's many helpful people in the One Great Work Network. There's a great group of like tech savvy individuals that support that channel and support people like me that aren't so tech savvy. But where was I going with this? I was talking about being self-sufficient, and let me look at my list of things I wanted to mention today, because beyond that self-sufficiency, we really need to, or would be to everyone's benefit, to learn to be in control of our own bodily abilities, to be in control of our own, I don't know how to say it, to relax when we need to relax, to let go when we need to let go. I've mentioned on this channel before the Essene Gospel of Peace. And in the Essene Gospel of Peace, Jesus, who was an Essene, mentions, the gods are the angels, I should say, not the gods, the angels of water, the angels of air, the angels of earth. And these angels were sent to help people heal. And really, they're sent to help people detoxify. And like the angels of water, that kind of has to do with water fasting. So like when you're water fasting, you're not necessarily fasting from water. You're fasting from everything else, and all you're taking in for what is water. And so for somebody that, has chronic headaches, a young person even, I would recommend doing several days of lemon water, just, 2 or 3 days, nothing but lemon water, and see how that helps you. And sometimes that's enough to really get to the heart of that pain. And you might feel terrible, especially, if you're addicted to anything like caffeine or anything else. As you're detoxifying that from your system, it's uncomfortable. It doesn't feel good, but you want to get to the other side of that discomfort, because on the other side, trust me, that's where you feel the love from those angels of water. And even in the Essene Gospel of Peace, the angels of water also go up the other end, right? The water can be used as an enema to clear out the bowels. And in the Essene Gospel of Peace, they describe this with like a gourd or something, I don't know, what they stuck up the rear end. Nowadays, we actually have, enema bags, and you can get one with a little tube and whatnot, and whatever. But some people use those. I know sometimes I watch like Professor Spira. He teaches the Arnold Ehret mucusless diet healing system. And I know the people in that camp are big fans of doing lemon water enemas. Lemon is beautiful because it agitates, it breaks down congestion. And then as you start to kind of break that down, and you can release it more easily, dislodge it from the body. Dr. Morse has and he's been out of it for a while. He might have it back in stock. I'll have to check, but I haven't checked in a couple of weeks. But he has something called GI Broom, which is another beautiful herbal mix. These herbs help to also kind of do the same thing. They are, in addition to that, but they're astringently pulling from the bowel wall. So, our gastrointestinal tract, that big tube that runs from our mouth all the way down to the anus, especially in the intestinal region, that tube can get plaqued and gooked up. And, that's a place where you can, not when you dislodge that, those plaques, sometimes they call them mucoid plaques. When you dislodge that and you start breaking it down, that will help to also pull toxicity from the epithelial lining of that GI tract wall. So these are all, excellent things we can do to really support the release of the congestion. And everybody has, each person has their own weaknesses when it comes to where they hold on to congestion the most. I personally, I think, the irises, I'm not going to go through my health history, but the irises tell us a lot. You can kind of see my eyes. I've been told I have like reddish orange eyes. They're kind of hazel. I think one person told me he thought I had green eyes. I don't know, but I was born with blue eyes, bright blue eyes when I was a little baby. And I received my childhood injections. And within a year, my eyes became darker. They became like, I think some of what I received was probably sulfur, because I've got some orange deposits in my irises and a lot of lymphatic congestion. So, we look at the irises as a clue of what your health history is, what your genetic weaknesses are. And when you detoxify, you can get like a little bit of a warning by looking at the irises first, like where you're going to experience your most challenges in the detoxification experience, because your areas of genetic weakness are going to probably feel more pain, are probably going to release more, and are going to be feeling a little bit more irritated during that detoxification. I gotta get someone's asking a question on the YouTube. Any thoughts on apple cider vinegar? Apple cider vinegar, it's a product of fermentation. Dr. Morris is not a big fan of it, although I am drinking kombucha right now, and that's kind of like the same thing, products of fermentation. Sometimes I use apple cider vinegar with the mother to help clean my dog's ears out. But, there's all of these little tricks and gimmicks people use. I think lemon is probably more powerful than apple cider vinegar if you're going to use it if you want something that can help break things down and decongest. I think, lemon is great. So I will tell people, like, before I put them on a cleanse, even, especially somebody that is coming from I'm going to go back to the screen. Somebody that's coming from a poor diet. So if you have been living on a standard American diet and you want to detoxify, I might recommend that you do several a day, at least, 36 hours, 24 to 36 hours of nothing but water. You can squeeze some lemon juice in there as well. And I think it's just a good habit every morning to start with a glass of water with freshly squeezed lemon juice. Just make that the first thing you take in every morning. And always have lots of lemons around you, because lemons are just beautiful fruits. I'm trying to grow an indoor lemon tree. We'll see how that turns out. I've got several citrus plants in my other room over there next door, and none of them are producing, but two of them are really small. One of them I've had for a couple of years and it's not producing yet. But it's good, to do those kind of things. Again, self-sufficient. What can you do if you have no grocery store, right? Because we have to kind of think how we can be more self-sufficient. And why would we want to think of that? Well, I don't watch the news, but I watch a couple of Odyssey channels, and there's some pretty scary what going on out there. And we could get to a point, because we have a crazy senile man who is a powers that should not be kind of person in control of the country I live in. And in certain countries, other countries are even worse, because they are really feeling the boot of the mind control pressing down on their face. I mean, look at countries like Australia and Austria, Germany. I've seen reports from all of these places, and that could be coming to the United States as well. And we can't always be reliant on the fact that we have a grocery store, because they could get to a point where they create some sort of injectable that can be picked up by a machine. I kind of think some of the things that are in this some of these things that are in this injection, I think, might be traceable, and that's how they're going to get away with it. And then if they can trace it on your body, then you're kind of screwed if you need something from that grocery store. Tiffany Carpenter is here, and she writes VOYFYI. I don't know if I know what that is. Maybe I don't know. If you could explain that, that would be beautiful, Tiffany. Boy, FYI. I know FYI is for your information. I got that part down. VO though. Vitality minus obstruction equals, I know that's, Arnold Ehret formula. I think I could probably pull that up really quick. Arnold Ehret, a very important naturopathic healer. Ooh, hopefully I can open this folder up. I don't know. There it is. I'm going to share the class I just finished up. I think I went over this last week as well, but I'm going to share this on the screen. Let's go back to the other screen here in just a second. And just so you know, I do save and edit all of these videos. I often edit them as well. All right, so I'm going to go share this on the YouTube as well. Arnold Ehret. Let's look at him. This is Arnold Ehret. I was talking about him this past Sunday in the naturopathic anatomy and physiology course that I teach with Dr. Robert Morse. And he came up because that lecture series was on the heart. And we were talking about, just the basic anatomy and physiology of the heart. I got into, some the cardiac cycle a little bit, the cardiac conduction system. What a good background that a naturopathic healer would need to know when they're, working with a client. And Arnold Ehret was one of the alternative healers that I brought up, because he has an alternate view of the heart, and he describes the fact that we breathe. That's really what provides the momentum for the heart to move blood. So he described it as an air gas engine. And he has this little formula, which is what is more related to what I'm talking about now. Vitality equals power minus obstruction. So what does that mean? Well, what our vital force is, which is kind of that innate energy we have that allows us to do, anything we want to do. We need a certain amount of power to support that. And the more power that can shine through is going to be directly related to the amount of congestive obstruction we have eliminated. Because when there is obstruction, it slows down pathways. It's going to diminish vitality. It's going to diminish how well our nervous system works, how well our blood flows. All of the meridian flows of energy throughout the body are going to be impacted in one way or the other. So very important formula here. I don't know if that's what you were kind of referring to when you were writing that. I no longer have my live stream up. I don't know, Tiffany, if that's what you were talking about with the VOY, since this is V equals P minus O. Could be. All right, so let's stop sharing the screen here. Oops. All right. So yeah, things are scary out there, and we have to become self-reliant. We can't, it's crazy that humanity has put themselves in a predicament to be manipulated like we have been. Here I am holding this bottle of glass, holding, kombucha, which is something you'd never find in nature, but we have to kind of get into that mindset. Like, what could we do if the shit hits the fan? How are we going to get through this thing? And we really are dependent on the system. This system has us right where they want us. And they're very smart. The powers that should not be, they're all on the same page. They have planned this out. And not only have they planned it out, they have created movies to help introduce into our subconsciousness or consciousness the ability for what they're actually executing now to be a reality. So first they create a movie, and you've seen many of the dystopic films, about the apocalypse and all of these end of the doom and gloom world scenarios. They kind of show you what they could do, what's the potential of what they could do in this type of reality. And so I think we have to kind of just not be dependent on their system. The person that owns the board game and makes up the rules for the board game, they're no fun to play with, right? Yeah, I'm not saying the person that owns the board game is no fun to play with. Somebody probably owns the board game, unless you stole it or you made it yourself, right? But the person that came up with the rules for the board game and they're in control of everything, and you just have to follow their rules, where you're kind of dependent on that, right? If you're really trying to make this thing a legit game. And it is a game. I mean, we live this whole life as a game. And I've talked about Jesus quite a bit on this live stream, but we really need to think about what Jesus came on this earth to do. Jesus, came here to, yes, he performed miracles, and he performed miracles, but he did a lot more than that, just that. But, he told humanity, what I do, you can do this and even greater. I mean, he's trying to create in the minds of man the idea that we are in control of our reality. And if that's really true, then why the hell would we have chosen this, right? I mean, I had a pretty, in my youth, I'm not even going to say in my youth, I mean, even hell, in my 40s, I had a lot of fun. I've done some pretty crazy things. I've been in bands. I've done a lot of crazy stuff in my life, fun stuff, gone places that are exciting. And I feel sad for the youth of today that are, feeling the constriction or restriction that this pandemic is all about. But they all seem to be very accepting of it as well. I mean, when I was in my 30s and my 20s, cell phones weren't a thing. And maybe it was like my late 30s that the cell phone kind of became something like a flip phone. And then by the time I was in my early 40s and now in my late 40s, the cell phones are like, they're what people are so reliant on. I mean, my parents have a flip phone, and if they want to make an appointment and they have to be text a little code for them to like do something like create an appointment or do any kind of change, they don't have text messaging. So they call me. They always have their texts sent to my phone, and then I could call them up and I can tell them whatever the code is, because they don't like to do, and I don't blame them. I wouldn't want to do the text thing either. I just kind of want to give up on this whole system, to be honest with you, because the system is quite, I mean, when you're dependent upon it, they've got you, right? And so how can we in reality just walk away from the system? And like I said, not being dependent on them for your health is probably the most empowering thing you could do. And it's really quite simple, going over that worksheet on the levels of detoxification and how you can release congestion from your body. That's what everybody should do when they're sick. I mean, what do animals do when they're sick? In the wild, an animal that is sick or injured is going to probably find a safe little space to hide out for a day or two. They don't want to move. They don't want to eat. I mean, even my dogs and my cat do that. If they're not feeling well, they don't want to have a meal. They're just kind of like, not feeling so great. I'm gonna, take a little break here. And that's what we should do. But we're given lies about all of this bullshit. I mean, they tell us, feed a cold or whatever. I don't know. I don't know why they tell us lies. We shouldn't be eating. Hospital food is probably the worst food out there as well, because I was in the hospital for a while, and I fell rock climbing back in 2015. And during my month-long hospital stay, because I'd have 3 surgeries to put my ankle back together, I got firsthand experience of the crazy hospital food. I mean, I was at the point where I was having my friends bring me in fruit. And they knew me as the the girl that ordered 5 bowls of grapes, because a bowl of grapes was like a little tiny bowl. So to get a really decent meal of grapes, I had to order many of them. And I didn't want their eggs. I didn't want anything else. And yes, I am grateful that there are amazing surgeons out there, because if I was out in the woods, my ankle injury was severe. My ankle bent so much that the sole of my foot was facing up towards me, and one of my bones was sticking out. I told you I've lived a crazy life. I've done a lot of crazy things in my many years of life on this planet. And so, I do feel for the people that are younger and they're not able to have all of these experiences, or they're told you can have these experiences, but you just have to be injected. Which to me is like injection and health. There's no equating the two. Those are not the same thing. And it's so funny, when I watch, and it's usually watching people that have YouTube channels and Odyssey channels that I like to follow, I see their news clips and all of these powers that should not be, whether it's, the ruler from New Zealand or fuckface Fauci in the United States, all of these people, they're all like, well, duh. Of course, vaccines are the only way to get through a pandemic. That's all we had. How the hell did we do this then before humans were on this planet? And how did humans get to be here? I mean, this is a big scam. The fact that all of these indoctrinated people think that these injections are a protocol for health. It blows my mind. I mean, the current injection is just atrocious, but even the ones that people have accepted before that, for like mumps and measles and polio, I mean, I think it's all a bunch of hogwash. I've seen people, I know people firsthand related to me maybe, that have had injuries from these injections. Not the current one. I haven't been injected many years, but I avoid them at all costs now. But it happens, right? So let's take a break here for a second. I want to share something with you all because I have to use the restroom too. But I want to share something. I think I shared this last week, but I'm going to share it again because it is quite powerful. Let's see if I can find it. I have here. Okay, so we're going to watch this. This is from the Reese report, which is actually, I got this from the Alex Jones show. And I'm going to share my screen. Oops, I have to do this on the YouTube too. So 1 second. This might get me kicked off of YouTube.